God allows me to continue to see. He could be calling me into that space, and then also understanding that whatever I was afraid of, it was probably because I was called to it. And a lot of times we get talked out of where we're called to be because of our own fear. And a lot of times people talk about, oh, we just afraid, we're just afraid of failure. But a lot of times it's the fear of success too.
I never grew up with educators that look like myself. So
100.
I feel like honestly, like we are that new wave that make being wise, being smart, being educated cool, right?
Absolutely.
Wisdom is a powerful tool, but oftentimes we might neglect it because of who it's coming from. You feel me? But if we can chop it up with a young buck and really implant a seed, man, like it's more than just education at that point. You know what I'm saying?
What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Let's Grow Together podcast, where diverse individuals and communities come to serve, connect, and grow in areas that they're most passionate about. Man, it's the first episode of the new year, Marcus. Tap in with the people, man. Let them know how you feeling.
Hey man, you gotta hit a buzzer, a bell, or something for that. It's 2024, man.
Yeah,
Come
you're
on.
right. You're right. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, again, happy 2024, people. As always, it's a blessing to be with y'all, man. Quick check-in. What's been going on, man? So, your boy is a minister, bro. I conducted
Hey.
my first wedding, like, so it's crazy because there was a situation. Well, so I was able to actually marry my father-in-law and his fiance. But what happened was the original pastor they plan on using passed away over the
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving break. For our listeners, that was my uncle. All right. And literally they was like, yo, like we in a position, we trying to figure out who we wanted to be somebody we sincere with, we connected with.
Yeah.
I did my research online, got that certificate, and was like, yo, I'm good. And at
That's
first I
crazy.
was playing with him. He was like, yeah, I want you to do it. So I had to study my script. I got right. But again, that's a huge thing, kind of accomplished under the belt as well. Outside of that, man, I've been very reflective of just the year in general and just thinking about the personal evolution associated with it. And my theme for 2024 is be like water, right? So be unbothered, right? Maneuver through it all. Be the flow, right? If you think about water, if you think about a river, if you think about an ocean, you think about abundance, but you think about the fact that it's malleable, right? It can be adjusted to anything in front of it. It's going to continue to overcome any hurdle. It's not going to be stopped. And that's really my mentality, man. Just be like water, move with the current, make the adjustments, but maintain your substance throughout whatever you come in contact with, bro. So like I'm very jubilant. We just got back from a session. I'm tired, but we pushing through, man. We enduring, bro. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a good year. I feel it. I feel it. What's up with you, man? How 2024 treating you so far, bro?
Man, so far, man, 2024 has been amazing, man. Man, I'm 2 for 2, man, of my mental checklist in the morning, man. Been doing my
Okay.
routine, getting my meditation in, getting my gratitude in. Been going back to the gym. Man, that's really my focus for this year, bro. Health, and wealth, bro. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
last year, man, I wasn't as consistent as I wanted to be in the gym, and it was just one of those things where it was like, really, man, life was just life, and my schedule was crazy. We got several programs we running at all the time. We running around doing so much, and then really just trying to start building for this next chapter with these properties. And so it's just one of those things, and then just running multiple businesses. So the gym kind of was on the back burner. You know what I'm saying? Even like not eating properly, right? So just focusing up on that. But I actually just I didn't have a session, but I had a conversation with one of my mentees. Man, we was rapping, and he just kind of made me really grateful kind of for this journey, because I was able to kind of impart some wisdom on him, bro. Uh, just not to get too much into it. He was having some difficulties with his parents, and they hadn't been seeing eye to eye, and basically he wasn't raised by him, but one of them came back into his life and was trying to be in his life. And so,
Yeah.
he's doing well, you know what I mean? And so it was one of those things where he's like, I don't know if it's because I'm doing my thing. They want money. I don't know what it is. And I had to say to him, like, bro, like that's not for you. You know what I mean? Like, do you want that relationship? I'm like, is that something that you really value? Because is if it is, or if is that something that you want, right? Because if it is, forget all that other stuff. Try to get the relationship. Now, of course, don't be an enabler. If they try to finesse you, don't get finessed. But understand that whatever that person was going through previous to this, you don't know, right? We were just kind of chatting offline about the Shannon Sharp post, where he was like, man, don't judge a man by where he stands. Like you don't know what that man has gone through. You don't know what
Yeah.
that person has gone through. And especially if you haven't known you didn't grow up with your parent, so you got to give some grace. And then I just kind of told him a little bit about my story and how I don't know what it was like having being a drug addict in the 80s. You know what I'm saying, and or in the
Mm.
90s. And so I have to give my parents grace. So he received it, and he called his mom, and they kind of connected for New Year's. So I'm feeling good about that. I'm piped up about
Beautiful. Look at you,
that.
man. Bringing connections together. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
What's the next session y'all got coming up, bro?
Oh man, so we man, so right now we still kind of in the Christmas break phase, but we got a mentor training. So you know, man, we in capacity building stage. Like we keep getting opportunities, but because it's only so many of us, we have to turn down
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, and it's a blessing,
Definitely.
bro. It's really a blessing to be able to turn down so many opportunities. But at the same time, we can't keep doing that because we're trying to scale. So we're
Yeah.
at a stage now where we're trying to train quality mentors to go out and do what we do. And so very next thing is our mentorship training. That's going to be coming up here on January 8th. And then on January 19th and 20th, if as I've been talking about, we got the Restorative Justice Conference coming up. So we just gearing up for that, man. I'm really excited for that just because it's going to be so many people in the RJ space under one roof, really just kind of sharing a different perspective of how RJ has helped them. So I'm just really excited about that. But and then, the regular programs we in, man. That's pretty much every day.
Consistent. Nah, I love it, man. I'm our listeners don't know is, man, we've been in conversation about actually getting together in person, right, and
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
meeting for the first time. So I'm excited, and we'll definitely have a whole lot more insight in regards to that as we get a little bit closer. But today, man, we have a. Go ahead, James. I see your face.
Yeah, I
What you
just
finna
thought
say?
about something, man, because it's funny because we talking about fitness, man, bro. So I challenged myself to get back in the gym, and one of the things I did was I saw this random brand on Instagram, and they were looking for like brand ambassadors. So I'm like, all right, I'm trying to get in the gym. Let me see what's to it. So I reached out to them, sent them a little request, and basically, man, got accepted as an ambassador for their program. So
Oh,
basically, what that entails is, I don't get free merch just yet. It's tiers and things like that. But basically, I purchase some merch. I get a coupon code. So, for the Let's Grow Together podcast listeners, y'all gonna be hearing about, the Jay Turner discount code coming soon. But yeah, I'm excited about that.
shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Facts, facts,
A man's
facts.
got a lot going on. That's love though. But as we pivot, man, we got a special guest today. This brother is extremely powerful, man. I had the opportunity to be on a panel with him, and really just hearing his story, his background. I say, yo, I gotta bring you on to tap in with our listeners. So without further ado, man, Mr. Adrian Davis, aka AD, bring him on out. Yeah, yeah.
What's up, fellas?
AD, tell the people just a little bit about you, man, for those who don't already know.
Man, yeah, well, I'm AD. I'm a speaker, former pastor, entrepreneur. What I like to just sum it up as, and this is my brand, but my brand is I'm a comma. So I'm a speaker, comma, philanthropist, comma, entrepreneur, comma, actor, comma, director, comma, producer, comma. I just feel like the more commas you have within you embracing who you are, you also have the opportunity to have those same commas in your bank account too. But it comes with a level of understanding of who you are. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in trying to figure out one particular thing when God has called us to be so much more. And so that's what I am, man. I'm just a little bit of everything. And so, man, I enjoy that. I'm a creative at heart. Just out here in LA, man, making it happen. That's me.
Definitely, nah, and I can definitely attest to the commas. My man's do a lot. But let's bring it back to the humble beginners though, man. I remember in our initial conversation, right? I believe from Alabama, correct?
I'm originally from Tennessee. I moved. I lived in Alabama for 10 years, but I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
Okay. So just again, I'm just picturing it. Transition from Chattanooga to LA. That's a lot, right? Can you just give
A
us just a
whole
brief synopsis about, the transitions and kind of the mental evolution that kind of came with those spaces as well?
Yeah, man. So like that transition for me was definitely one of the hardest decisions that I made. I always felt I always felt intrigued and felt called to the entertainment space. I just didn't know how I would go about being on, anything with entertainment or being in anything with entertainment. And especially coming from the South, man, like you're kind of wired to view TV as something that you watch, not anything that you can be on. So
Mm-hmm.
so it was like, it's not achievable, And so for me, it was thinking outside of the box of the concept of what I feel called to or what I feel drawn to is not just for me to partake or be a receiver of that. I also can be a creator of that. And I wanted to create um, things that spoke to our culture, things that that shedded the light on disparities of black people, but then also black men specifically. And so, man, like that challenge to move from the South out to the West is two totally different worlds. Like, the South is, we kind of are raised to take life as it comes. And then,
Mm-hmm.
when you move to a bigger city, it's like, yo, you become a go-getter. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that people from the aren't go-getters. I just think that we kind of, how I was raised, I can't speak for anybody else, but how I was raised, it was more so in my city, it was more so the goal was to just get a good job and to get a job with benefits. And that was success. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that just didn't sit well with me. Something about it within me said like, yo, you're called to more than just pay bills and retire and die, And so it was a lot of things that I wanted to create. I'm working on a documentary right now. I produced a short film that has numbers of awards that we won, and it talks about the battle of suicide amongst the African American culture, specifically amongst Black men, that we don't talk about a lot. And so I just wanted to create things that were passionate to me, man. So it's jumping from, and then, for 10 years, like I said, I was in Alabama and pastoring a very thriving church in Alabama. And in Alabama, I was more so the big fish in a small pond. And that transition to LA, coming from being a big fish in a small pond to now being a little fish in a big pond, is a eye-opening thing. But you just gotta, for me, is the level of resiliency and the level of, oh, I'm called to this no matter how difficult it is. And so changing my mental space, and also understanding that whatever God allows me to continue to see, he could be calling me into that space. And then also understanding that whatever I was afraid of, it was probably because I was called to it. And a lot of times we get talked out of where we're called to be because of our own fear. And a lot of times people talk about, oh, we're just afraid of failure. But a lot of times it's the fear of success too.
Yeah.
We're afraid that, if we make it, how that looks, if we, because after a while, bro, I just got tired of hearing you got so much potential. Potential to me was a cuss word. Like when you reach a certain, like for real, like when you reach a certain, when you reach a certain age, or you reach a certain place in your life, and people still say, man, you got so much potential. It's like, so wait a minute, you see more in me than what I'm doing right now?
Mm. Mm.
And it was like, yo, like, I gotta be working towards that. It just can't be, for me, it just can't be, I have so much potential anymore. It needs to be, you're working towards what that potential is on the inside of you, and you're making progress towards those things. And I didn't want to hear I had potential anymore. I wanted to hear like, hey, you making progress towards the things that we see in you. And so I just had to continue, and I still do every single day, bro. It's like today, man, I was just on a hike with my trainer, and I get to this plateau in this hill, and I'm overlooking. I'm like, man, I can't believe I live in LA. Like I think about that every day. Like I took the leap of a lifetime, leaving what some would call safety, what some would call comfortability, it was like, and to leave that to come to the unknown and struggle, because it has been an extreme struggle, to struggle like I've been struggling. But, you know, the place of comfortability, man, I tell my mentees this all the time, man, like whenever we find a extreme place of comfortability, man, comfortability could be a killer to your call and what you're called to do. And a lot of times we it's like we thrive to get to the place of comfort, but in our actuality, comfort could be killing what you're called to do, because the calling is not in your comfort. The calling is what you're challenged with. And if we're always searching for comfort, then it's probably because we've talked ourselves out of what we're called to do. I don't want to do that. That's too difficult,
Yeah.
because we are trying to rely on a level of comfort. So I had to, every day, man, I try to readjust my thought process with it.
Oh my God, you just said so much. I know a lot of people gonna get a lot out of that. It's like, man, I'm like, it was one thing I was gonna comment on, the next thing. I'm just like, man, but it's just so dope, bro. Because I always think about when we're on this journey of personal development, like people want you to do better, but not better than them. And a lot of times
Yeah.
it's like they not even hating on you. They just hating on the fact that you are doing the thing that you said you were gonna do. Like you are pursuing your passions. And I think a lot of times, because I know we talked offline a little bit about like kind of in the black community how like, if you have a black business and the black business doesn't perform a certain way, they're not rocking with the black business anymore. And I think for some reason it's just kind of like this self-hatred, because it's really a reflection of themselves. And man, I'm so dope. I mean, I'm so proud that you were able to move from Alabama to LA and really kind of pursue your thing, because I know it's a lot of people that's listening right now that's living somewhere or that's in a situation that's literally thinking like, man, can I get to the next level? What can I do to get to the next level? And what you said was so powerful. You said a little bit differently, but everything we want is on the opposite side of fear.
Yeah,
Literally
it is.
everything that we want, no matter what it is. And so, man, shout out to you, man. I really appreciate that. But how did you get into to ministry? Like, how did you become a pastor? Like, what led you to that?
Yeah, man. My stepfather. I said my stepfather. My grandfather pastored a church for the same church for 37 years. Man, I grew up in and around church. I always say that because all the time I wasn't in church. I was around it, but they instilled very biblical principles in me at an early age. Man, I started preaching when I was 17. So started preaching when I was 17. I went to seminary straight out of high school.
Mm.
I was probably the youngest. No, wait, no, probably two. And I was the youngest person at my seminary. Majority of people go to uh, like they go and do their undergrad and they go and do their graduate, and then they go to seminary. They go and do an undergrad and they go to seminary. Me, I went straight out of high school, straight to seminary. Like I was like, yo, like, and it wasn't to pastor a church. I never wanted to pastor a church. Nothing about me ever wanted to pastor a church. I fought it and I was like, no, nah, like, all right, God, I'm gonna preach. That's enough. Like I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna submit to preaching. Cool. And so, man, but God just had another plan for me. And the pastoral journey, I went to seminary just because I wanted to know why I believed what I believed.
Okay.
um because I didn't want to, people be like, well, how do you know there's a God, or what do you believe about the Bible? Or, we have so many people that study that are Christians that study everything else but the Bible.
Mm.
It's like, they can tell you about so many other books that, well, what about this and what about this? I'm like, yo, listen, my 66 books in the Bible are enough to keep me occupied for the rest of my life, honestly. So man, I wanted to believe, I wanted to know why I believe what I believe, and I didn't want to spoon feed people with the idea that, oh, this was just passed down to me, type of scenario.
Mm.
I wanted to know, and I wanted to be able to articulate my beliefs and have biblical backing for those beliefs, and my thought process to be my own thought process, not something that somebody gave to me. So I went to seminary, got involved in that, and I started doing youth ministry, and then um, I did youth ministry, then I did college ministry. Then I was assistant pastor, and then the pastor I was working for retired, and then he put me into the seat of pastor. I probably wouldn't have went the traditional way of applying for a church or whatever the case is. So he knew how to kind of set me up to be in that trajectory, and I tell people all the time, man, God uses whatever to kind of hook you and kind of lure you in and kind of bait you into a space. And so, man, I got into that space, and just because I always said, like, if I ever did pastor, I was like, it was going to be the way in which God gave it to me. And I'm just called to a different to deliver a message a different type of way. And I think the principles are the same. It's
Yeah.
just my delivery is a little bit different. And so, man, just it was just spoon fed to me, throughout the years. But then I knew that the call of God was for me to operate in that, for that season of my life. And, people ask me all the time, like, would I pastor again or whatever the case is? And I still have people that still consider me their pastor, and I still teach, and I still, go and preach, and I still do those type of things. And I always say, I never say never. I mean, my church started with 17 people. We grew it to over 2,000. We had a great following, had a great time, and for that season of my life. But I just think that now God has kind of called me to do other things. I don't know if pastoring, is in the future, but it just started with, man, how I was raised in my upbringing.
And
So
real quick, I want to add something real quick because it's dope. Like it's everything that you say is so funny because I was reading the Four Agreements, like I'm rereading it, and
Yeah.
it talks about how like how your beliefs are just things that you agreed to, whether that was
Yep.
something that was passed on from your parents, from your church, from whoever, and it's just like it's funny because when you get to an age of knowing like okay maybe this belief that I have isn't right, you still do it. Like you still will follow that same belief, that same principle, no matter if it's causing you harm or whatnot, because that belief is safe. So a lot of
Yep.
times, no matter what the religion is, people they continue to act the way that they act because it's safe, and that's the unfortunate part. But that's kind of the reality that we live in.
so
It
I
is, bro.
admire I admire that you did your own digging though, bro. Like it was,
Facts.
I like your logic for wanting to do it because honestly, I've never heard that before. Right? Most
Yeah.
people do it because it's passed on. Hey, it's my calling. It's just what I was gonna do. You didn't want to just be regurgitating what you heard. You want to have your own study, your own perspective from it, and I admire that more than anything. I
Yeah,
also
man.
really love the way that you go about doing stuff too, bro. Like you, Ford, it's a few other individuals who do it in your own way, bro. And I'm really like, it's this new generation of like past the wave, which I'm in a little bit more alignment with, because James, I say all the time, like, bro, I've been running for forever, and they gonna have to catch me with a jab to get me to sit
See,
down. But
but Marcus though, let me stop you right there because what I was gonna also say to AD is that like if you have a story or if you have a message and you're articulating that message and you're educating people, that is all what ministry is about anyway, right? So I think a lot of times like when we do the stuff that we do when we're in mentorship roles, it's like people look at that as ministry a lot of times. Like the restorative
It
practice,
is.
you know what I mean? The
It
restorative
is.
practice is ministry, you know what I mean? So because I was gonna say to AD, like you might not go back to like a church and traditionally, minister, but I know that when you go out and speak,
100%.
a lot of that's gonna come out. You know what I mean? So it's in you.
All the time, bro. Like I say, um, I say this, man. Like I believe, and I don't want to get too deep on here, but I honestly believe that God is literally changing um, what it looks like, or He's changing what the pulpit looks like.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what I mean by that, man, is that what we traditionally have found where the message is coming from inside the four walls of a church from a pulpit and us sitting in a pew. I think that now God is shifting it to where the pulpit has become the podcast, has become the show, has become all of these different avenues. And the congregation are the listeners, and even via YouTube and via podcast, wherever they listen to podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, wherever it is. I believe that God is now like saying, that I don't necessarily want people to be so confined to how they're going to get a message one specific way, that I'm going to get them the message in different mediums and different platforms, to where we do not become so programmed to thinking we have God figured out, that He'll show up in the middle of a podcast, He'll show up in the middle of a show, He'll show up in the middle of a movie, and we now become receptive to that because our guard is down. And I think that even when people go to church, their guard, like if you go to a church for the first time, your guard is kind of up. I don't know what to expect in here. I don't know what they're going to say out of line or whatever the case is. And we become spectators. And so, but when we listen to a podcast that has been safe to us, or we talk or we watch a show that has been safe to us, our guard is down. So now the soil for the seed of the word, is more potent because the soil is ready to receive because we don't have our guard up. And I think that that's what God is doing, man. He's changing the voices of how we hear and the way that we hear certain messages, and us being open to hearing it from different people. I think that's what God is doing, bro. Like, especially now in 2024.
The evolution of the gospel. Talk to him now.
Yeah,
the,
for real.
the pulpit is within. It's kind of how I look at it simultaneously. I think growing up, I was always in church where it was like that old mean black woman. You don't want you taking the extra cookie. I'm like, damn, like God gave, what you tripping about? Like, and that was always my philosophy. But again, like in today's society, again, like being able to rap with you, being able to engage with you for like a bunch of other brothers who got that same swag, that same drip, talk that same talk, but are able to convey a message. Like, really, man, that kind of shocked me, bro. I wasn't used to seeing nothing like that prior to. And to James' point and to your point as well, like, it's wherever we lie, right? As long as the work is being done and it's done on his behalf, right? The pulpit travels wherever. So you also you kind of helped me with my transition. You talked about, right, the movies. Now it could be on the screen, it could be in things of that nature. So again, I know you may not be the pastor of the church, but you still pastor wherever you go. So I want to talk about how that has kind of stayed with you through transitioning to LA and now being on movie screens, being an actor, being all these different things that you have in your bag as well. How has that kind of helped you throughout your journey as well, right? What does that look like for you?
Bro, like, Marcus, that's a great question, man, because honestly, man, having that foundation has really helped me out here. Because there are some opportunities, and people talk about LA and people talk about how LA is weird, and it's and it's this and it's this and it's this. Man, listen, in this day and age, it's everywhere. Whatever you want to do is everywhere. It's not just in one particular or one set location. But what I will say is that having that relationship with God has really helped me be grounded out here. And one of the things that, man, God had to show me in 2023, like, I've been in LA for, it'll be 4 years in June of this year, man. And one of the things that God had to show me was that when I first came out here, I was feeling like it had to be this or this. So it was like, either I had to be in the church pastoring, and that's what I was doing in the church lane and preaching. And then if I came out here and I was pursuing entertainment, I couldn't do that. I couldn't preach. I couldn't, do that. So I had to be focused in on acting, producing, directing, and all of that. And then what God had to show me, man, this year, he was like, no, it's not this or that. It's this and that. It's both. You can be both. That's the whole concept of you being a comma. I gave you that because I know that you're going to be both, and you can be both. You can be multiple things all at one time. And honestly, it's how I've made some of the best connections that I made out here. Like, man, there are people out here that's been in LA for 9, 10 years that haven't got one movie credit yet, or have one movie credit. I've been out here for 3 years. I have 4 movie credits, actually 5. And I've been in 4, produced 1, and working on a documentary right now. And then set to film something in the spring of this year as well. Like, so it's like, God is orchestrating the steps, but what has kept me grounded is my relationship with God. And now understanding that I don't have to pick a side. It can be both, because I honestly feel like God needs his level of influence in the area and in the space of entertainment. And it comes through a flawed individual because I'm flawed. I'm a man. I, make dumb decisions sometimes. I don't do everything right. But the concept of it is that I openly talk about that. I'm openly talking about how I rely on God for every step that I take and every decision that I make. And then it allows me to be, to come across to people that, for one, God is, in our relationship with God is a real relationship. And I can't tell you how many sets that I've been on that people find out that I was a pastor, or people find out I have a relationship with God, and they start talking to me about God. Then next thing I know, hey, I heard you do a Bible study. I'd be like, yeah, I do a Bible study once a month. It's virtual. They'd be like, oh, can you send me the link? Okay, cool. And they'll be on the Bible study. You know what I'm saying? I've had some major casting directors on my Bible study. I've had some major directors and producers and actors on the Bible study that have just been like, yo, I want to learn more about this relationship with God. So I feel like God has set it to be a light, but it was up to me to kind of embrace on both sides. But it's helped me tremendously because I don't, I'm just not moving to whatever is going to quote unquote give me success. I'm moving to the doors that God opens, and I got a right to choose that on either side. Like, hey, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I got the right to choose that because I have, my morals of what I feel like God doesn't want me to do.
Man, that's powerful, man. Isn't it dope how God gave each and every one of us a unique gift, and when He gave us that gift, He said, I gave this to you, but it's for you to give to others, right? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
the people that receive the most blessings are the ones that are giving the most. And I'm just hearing everything that you talk about, and it's not it's a selfless, it's coming from a selfless place. Everything, it's like, man, like I
Yeah.
could do this for me. I could do, you got coaching going on, you got, you do the speaking, you just talked about the Bible study, and I'm just over here like, man, it's just, you just serving, bro. And that's what we do here. We said we come here to serve, connect, and grow. And that's literally what Let's Grow Together is about. But man, you talked about really just being a creative at heart. Like, you got your own podcast. You also have Pariah clothing. Where did Pariah come from? Like, obviously I see, you got the swag, but I'm just interested in knowing like what led you to just be like, all right, I want to kind of create my own lane instead of, putting money in other people's pocket for things that I consume.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you asking about that too, bro. Pariah came up because at first, like, so like I've always been in this fashion space. I've always loved fashion. I draw as well, so I'm an artist. And so when I was in high school, man, my senior project for economics, we had to start up a business, and I started up a clothing line called Premier Clothing Line, where I drew on clothes. I drew. I had like shirts, and I had like hand drew and hand painted on shirts and did all of that stuff. And that was like, and like I got an A+ from Mr. Rowan. He never gave out A+, but he loved the creativity of, and like, so I got like these mannequins, and I styled the mannequins, and I brought all that stuff in, like, so people was like legit buying my clothes. And so I've always been in the fashion. So when I was pastoring in Alabama, me and my boy Jamil, shout out to Jamil Moore, we started up a clothing line called Black and White Him, where we did like the long line shirts, and we made them from scratch. And so we would design them. And so people still, Black and White Him is still operational, but Jamil just wanted to do shirts, and I kind of wanted to do a little streetwear and a little bit of everything, because I was like, yo, like I just don't wear, I wear those shirts when I preach, but I was like, I want something that, I don't have to just wear that, and
Yeah.
I want to do urban, and I want to do a little bit of everything. And so when I got out here to LA, at first, I was like, man, I want to create something. And I was thinking about like Outcast. I was like, man, but I was like, you remember Outcast had a clothing line,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to wear Outcast clothing line like crazy. And so I was like, because I always felt like I was, I got all these tattoos, and I always felt like I was a little bit too worldly for church people to kind of receive me.
Yeah.
And then I felt like I was a little bit too churchy for the world to receive me anymore. Cause like they was kind of like, oh yeah, you the pastor now, you the church boy now, you
Yeah,
know.
yep.
And then the church was like, oh no, you look too much like the street. So, so I always kind of felt like I couldn't quite find my lane. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that's because the lane that I'm called to be in doesn't quite exist,
Yeah.
and so I kept thinking about the word outcast, and I kept thinking and so the clothing line was going to be called Reject at first, and I was going to name it the Reject, but then I kept looking for words that kind of embodied that, and then when I landed on Pariah, that was a short film, because my short film was up for Oscar nomination. We were about to be Oscar qualifying. And so we were Oscar qualifying, and we were in the last running of the votes to be Oscar nominated. And we missed Oscar nomination probably about 3 votes. But it was another short film called Pariah. And I was looking at it and I was like, oh, that's dope. And I kept researching the name, and then I like, is that name trademark? And I looked up the definition, and Pariah, one definition of Pariah is one that's willing to stand alone.
Mm.
And it says outcast. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. Because, even with Reject, I was like, man, like if I decide to do dress shirts, I just don't know if, Reject fits like a dress shirt. And so I was like, Pariah can be so much. It could be, just one that's willing to stand alone. And so then that's when, I launched Pariah, and we launched the first line of hats, which the first line of hats was the I Don't Fit In hat. And right now it's still going crazy. We still sold out of it. So we're supposed to have some by the end of this month, because it was on a new episode of the Prime documentary with Dion. And so yeah, so it's in episode 4 where one of our clients wore it, and so people been like asking, like, where's that hat at? Where you can get that I Don't Fit In hat? That's me. That's me. That's me. And so we got some traction going with it, but man, it's just the whole concept was birthed out of like trying to find a lane, and then understanding that sometimes while we're trying to find a lane, we're also called to create one. And so, and not being afraid to create it. So that's really what I just settled into. And I was like, yo, I don't fit in, and being okay with that, and really embracing that sometimes you just will not fit into spaces that you desperately may want to, but you're called to do something different.
But that's so spot on, man. It this hearing that part made me just reflect on my personal life as well too, about always being told you're different, but like, but why, dude? Why?
Yeah.
Like, do I have to? Especially in your youth, it's like you always want to be with your boys, but they're like, nah, like you don't really belong. You know what I'm saying? It's like you feel
Yep.
like that reject to an extent as well. But as you get older and you mature and you realize you can stand 10 toes down and be independent in the midst of that, it's a whole different feeling. But obviously that comes with time and the evolution. But I want to
Yep.
talk a little bit about like the mental health component of that too, man, because oftentimes being in a position where you want to align with the majority, but you feel that, hey, it's only right that I go left opposed to right. There's a lot of mental health battles that kind of go on with that sometimes as well, and it's not for the weak hearted by any means. Especially from, I'm just imagining being a young man from Tennessee to LA. Like, there's a lot of mental health stretches that come and play with that. And I want to talk about a little bit of your mental health journey. I know that was one of the things that really connected us on that panel, man. Just hearing your story, hearing how you kind of maneuvered. I would love for you to shed a little bit of wisdom on like how you overcame some of your own personal battles and maybe some things you're still facing right now.
Yeah, man. Dude, like it's such a mental health battle, because for one, I think that people don't talk about when you are different, and that you're different and different from your family, or have a different call on your life, or and it doesn't, and this is what I try to get people to understand. It doesn't mean that you're better. It just means that you're different. And a lot of times people equate different to, oh, you think you're better. Just because I'm not doing the same stuff you doing doesn't make me better. It just makes me different. And if we all leaned into our difference, we can all be better. But it's where we try to duplicate what has happened before. And so for me, with my mental health aspect of it, was that man, I put safety. I would, even I'll say this. In the past, what I did, I put safety into things, into stuff, into, if I, especially for Black men, that we're kind of taught that, we are to have our own, go after it, get the house, get the car, get the stuff, and then that equates to a level of manhood, right? Um, and so that's how I equated manhood. But also at the same time, the more and more we put stuff like that into our thought process. So I say it like this. Um, I always thought that if I had all of the stuff, I was a man. So if I had the clothes, if I had the house, if I had the money, yo, I'm a man. And
Women.
then it was, huh?
Hey, we can't forget the women. Let's throw them in there, brother.
Yeah. Like, yeah. See, like all of that was to get the women, right?
Yeah.
It was like if I have all of that, oh, it's gonna make me look good with women. It's gonna make me look like I got it together, right? So it's like, if you have the stuff, then they think and they feel like you got it together, but not understanding that I acquired things, but internally I was depleting, I was dying, I was only as good as the new stuff that I got. I was only as relevant as the new stuff that I purchased. I was only as like relatable as the stuff that I got. And so, man, like I read this scripture in First Corinthians where it talks about when I was a child, I operated as a child. I thought as a child. I spoke as a child. But then he says, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And so for me, how I always equated manhood was by what I got. But then when Paul says, but when I became a man, I put away, it wasn't about what he acquired. It was about the wisdom on knowing what to operate in and what to put away. It's not about what you get. It's about how you think. It's about your visions. It's about your ability to let some stuff go. It's about the restraint. It's about your discipline. And like all of my life, I've thought one way. And a lot of times we think a certain type of way because of what we were deprived of growing up. So if you didn't have the finances growing up, then it's like it almost creates an idol of you having money for you to say, yo, I'm gonna make sure I got that money. I'm gonna make sure I get to the bag. When in all actuality, I was raised like go get the bag. I was raised like go acquire the stuff. I was raised like go have as many women as you can have because that's what manhood is. I remember growing up and my uncles or my cousins will ask me like how many girlfriends you got. If you said one, you were viewed as less than.
Yeah.
You was a
You got
lame. You was
clown.
a lame. If you said yo, I got one girl and I'm pleasing that one girl and I'm focusing in on her, you was a lame. So it became an idol to have, and also desensitizing the way that we view women without us even realizing it, right? It's like and that's pressed upon you. And so now like, getting to a certain age, and not even let me scratch that, not getting to a certain age, but getting to a certain point of maturity. Because age is not always accompanied by maturity. So I got to a certain point, and this is recent, where I got to a certain point and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sad and I'm depressed and I have stuff. I'm sad and I'm depressed because I'm missing out on a portion of purpose and a call that's on my life that's beyond the stuff that I acquire. So my manhood can't just be about stuff. It has to be about so much more than that. And so how I've battled this level of mental health things or mental health issues, um, mental health issues is because for one, I've addressed my um, the way that I've thought things. And I think that, we were talking about it earlier, is like what things have I come into agreement with that have been passed down to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yo, this is a level of destruction because I'll never be satisfied. It's always going to be new things. It's always going to be new stuff that rolls out. I have to find a level of happiness and contentment within myself. Paul says, in all things, I've learned how to be content, right? It's like, I want to find a level of contentment that is not predicated on things that I acquire, but a peace that I have within myself as a man. And so I had to address that first. Then, you know, tapping into the idea that because Marcus, when we was on the panel, I was talking about this. Like, I remember one time, man, I had got done having sex, and like literally, I sat on the edge of the bed, and I thought that having sex in that moment was going to satisfy an itch within me. Like, I thought that I was going to feel better afterwards, like I had done so many times before. Right? It's like, I don't feel loved, so I'm going to I'm going to have sex right now. Or I don't feel I don't feel appreciated, so because I don't feel appreciated, I'm gonna have sex right now. I don't feel accepted, so I'm gonna have sex right now. But one of the things that I also realized is that I was leading with giving sex because I felt that that was the best thing that I had to offer. I felt like because it's like, what do you do when if you start to have feelings for somebody, you start liking somebody, you want to give them your very best. But if you think that sex is your very best that you have to offer, that's what you're going to offer. Yep. That's really where like a lot of our manhood lies, because we think that, it's like the best I have to offer is to give you sex. So if I like you, if I'm feel a connection with you, if I feel like we connect on a certain level, then I'm going to offer you what I feel is the best that I have. If you, when you're a little boy, you got your favorite toy, you start liking a girl at in first grade, second grade, you offer that to her. Cause that's, you like, this is my sacrifice to you to let you know I'm feeling you. You know what I'm saying? Like, here you go, girl. Like this is precious to my heart. But what happens with a lot of us as men is that we lead with sex because we've been taught and we've been programmed, this is the best that you have to offer. So we will lead with that. I like you. Let's have sex. This is great. Let's have sex. And then this one time after it was over, I sat on the edge of the bed and I was like, yo, I'm not satisfied. And something internally is going on with me that I need to process, and I need to figure out, because this is no longer satisfying this itch. And it came at a cost of me going to therapy, me going to counseling on a regular basis. And then also, man, just at a point where I went to it's this place called Onsite, and I went to a session with Onsite called the Emotionally and Sexually Healthy Man. It's 5 days, no TV, no cell phone, no nothing. And I went there and checked myself in, and went on this journey for 5 days. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And since then, man, like, it ain't, things have been better, but it's still a journey. It's still the work. Like, people, like, it ain't no, I'm gonna go this, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna be fixed. It's, it starts you on the process. But like, even now, so Marcus, to answer your questions, me, addressing how I feel and not being afraid of communicating how I feel. And a lot of people have attacked me on social media for being so open about certain things. Oh, you just open because you just, it's like, if you honest about what you're going through, people feel like that's bait for something else, because we can't process, or we can't fathom that somebody could be honest about being molested, or being, especially Black men. So now it's like, oh wait a minute, why they being so transparent? It gotta be a catch to everything that we do. It gotta be, so it's like we want honesty, but then when it's given and we feel like that something is wrong with that. And if we, then if we guard it, then we too guard it. Is it, so you gotta find what works for you and what settles within your spirit and what settles within your soul and do that thing. And so for me, what settles with me is like communicating and being honest about, what I feel. My challenge is at times I could probably be more open in front of this camera and be more transparent in front of this camera than I can to one individual person. That's been my challenge. And so with my mental health, what I've tried to do is to consistently address, if I feel it, let's talk about it. And not live in a space and not live in a world of it doesn't exist. Because I think that a lot of times for Black men, we numb what we feel just to show up for everything else and everybody else until we implode. And this is the reason why we have, leading cause of heart attacks and so many other things. Man, if you read the biopsy of, there is when they did the biopsy of Martin Luther King, they said when they cut open into Martin Luther King, they said his mind was that of an 80-year-old man because of the stress that he had been dealing with. And it's one of those things where I feel like internally we try to deal with everything internally, like it's what I feel. And, but hey, I ain't gonna talk about it. I ain't gonna talk about it. And I just found a place, bro, to where if I feel it, I'm going to share it and I'm going to talk about it. I've experienced death after death after death. I'm still in a place of grieving. Holidays are hard. I'm just coming out of the holiday season, extremely hard. But I talk about it. I tell people how I'm feeling, and it comes across as weird to certain people because certain people ask you, how you feeling? And I tell them, today's been challenging, because we're so programmed to hear, oh yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
Yeah, everything's straight. No, it ain't. No, I ain't that good today. Things are hard right now, and I communicate that. I share that, and so for me, man, just being honest with how I feel, being transparent with how I feel, and addressing that, and then also not feeling the need to consistently perform. That's the biggest takeaway for me. Like I don't want to perform. I don't want any. If I got to show up on the platform. Because I did, when Marcus, when you asked me about coming on to the podcast, I went and I started looking at episodes. I was like, oh yeah, this my type of space. Because if I got to show up and I got to be something that I'm not, I ain't signing up for it.
100%. 100% off that. I wouldn't even ask you to come on here and perform, man. That ain't the way it went by any means. But you said a few things that I was kind of just reflecting on. I personally realized, man, life, and James will tell you too, I'm laughing thinking about it. I'm very simple, bro. The older I get, life is more simple, bro. It's about maintaining versus obtaining to me at this point in time. And in my youth, it was all about obtaining. I want the Lex, I want the Beamer, I want everything that come with it. But I realized I liked it because when I pulled up, the looks that I got from others, it wasn't for me. My bill, my mechanic bill was higher. I didn't like that, but I like the image and the facade that came with it. But I was talking to my partner the other day. I'm like, well, I traded in the Lex for the Chevy, and I'm just as content, right? Things of that nature. But it took time to really get there. And now, bro, like sitting on the porch, chilling with Avery, right? Getting ready to shoot some fireworks. Like, I value that so much more than all the other stuff that brings about the stress because you're working to obtain, right? The sweat equity, everything that come with it. But the maintaining, especially if it's something you value, like that's not all that difficult when you really value it and you love it. It's going to deplete half of that stress. So hearing about that biopsy with MLK, man, like that's mind-blowing, but it makes so much sense as well. Because it's not only are you performing like for you and your passion, it's you got the eyes of everybody else looking at you and you're being swayed by that. That's not what it's about, and that's not life. Now, you also talked about just the mental health component of understanding the different trials and tribulations that come. You have a dope philosophy with that, and I love how vulnerable and transparent you are. Again, if I could tell you anything, bro, my theme since our conversation is be like water, right? I like literally on my drive home, like bro, like it dawned on me. I was like, I connected the dot. You don't even know, but like, bro, I came back, be like, hell, like the police was at my house and everything after that session, bro. And it's
What?
okay. It's okay. It was some miscommunication stuff, but what I realized is the mental health forum prepared me to deal with that. I got there and I didn't even trip, bro. Like the
Yeah.
old me was like, "You straight, bro?" Like the
Yeah.
old me would have spazzed and been hot and mad. But what I realized is sometimes life is so big and we look at it from a micro perspective that if we take time to zoom out, we'll understand that things are so interconnected. But we're looking at it to be connected in front of us that it might take years for you to be like, "Damn, that's why that happened," right?
Yep. Yep.
So your journey, your experience, and everything is so interconnected, and I love it. But in the midst of that, man, just be like water, maneuver, be malleable, adjust.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened for a reason, because you might not see that season right now, but years down the line, you can be like, boy, I'm so glad you put me through the fire because now I'm ready.
Yep. Yep. And bro, Marcus, I don't know. Have you heard? It's a PJ Morton song that it says "Be like water."
Okay. Nah,
I'm gonna
I
send it
haven't.
to you. I'm gonna send it to
Please
you. I'm
do.
gonna send it to you. Yeah, yeah. It's PJ Morton and Stevie Wonder, I believe. And man, and that's really what he's saying, man. It's just be like water, be adjustable. And man, my thing, I think, man, life is really about how well we pivot and how well we rebound.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's those things. You're not gonna make every shot, so how well do you rebound after you miss it? And how well do you pivot when you thought it was gonna work this one way and then it didn't? How can we make the pivot on a closed door or a closed opportunity or whatever the case is? Like, and man, so for me, it's the thought process of, I don't want this to overtake me. I don't want this to, and honestly, one of the things that I'm trying desperately, I'm trying so hard to grasp this, but man, like understanding that like people seeing you pissed off should be a luxury.
Bro, bro, Marcus,
That should be a luxury.
Marcus, my philosophy, man. I say emotion is just energy in motion, right? And it's one of those things where it's like if I allow a person to enrage me or get me out of character, like they control me. Like you have that amount of power over me. So man, it's like, bro, like I'm at a space now, and it's difficult, bro. Like you said, it takes practice. It's not like, oh, I know it and I just figured it out, right? It's something that I have to continuously practice because sometimes people do press buttons, especially people that you don't expect to press those buttons. But
Yep.
I always kind of fall back on a couple philosophies. I'm like, you would drive yourself crazy expecting yourself from someone else. And I think if we just go out with that mentality, like obviously we treat others how we want to be treated and we understand that we're all one. But if I was to expect that Marcus was to be James and AD was to be James, I would be, nah, it wouldn't work out. And I would
Yep.
continuously fool myself. And I think that as people, we just got to realize that and just take it how it is. Like when people show you
And
who they are, believe them.
and James, and I say this too, bro. Like for me, I don't want nobody to be me because I
Mm-hmm.
got some stuff. I got some stuff I don't like about myself.
Yeah, that's real.
So if I saw that in you, I'd probably be mad at you.
You wanna know what's crazy? Earl Nightingale said that the things that irritate us the most about other people are things that we dislike about ourselves. And he gave the analogy of when you're driving in a car and you're gonna make a right turn and you pull out into the crosswalk. He was like, I hate when cars do that. He was like, but then I found myself doing it, and then the people gotta awkwardly walk around your car. And I was like, dang, that's so crazy. Cause I started to reflect and I'm like, it's a lot of stuff that I pick at my girlfriend about, but it's really just because I got this insecurity or something I don't like. So that's real.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy, man. Because like like when people say opposites attract, and I agree with that to a certain extent. And I say all the time that it's the other stuff that you wish that you had that draws you to that person,
Yep.
right? So I'm a creative, I'm a big picture type of guy, I'm a visionary. And usually the people that I connect with that I work with, that are my business partners or whatever the case is, they're great at administration. That's not what I'm good at. And so if I found another me, we could talk about big picture stuff and we can dream all day long, but we probably would never get anything done.
Yeah, yeah. That's so
So I
crazy.
need people. I need people around me. So like I tell my team this. The reason why they're a part of my team is because I staffed my deficiencies.
Mm.
So I'm beyond at this point, at this grown age. I'm not trying to take a class to grow something that I know I'm not called to be good at.
That's good. That's really
So
good.
my biggest strength is knowing my weaknesses. So if I know my weaknesses, I can staff people around me that are great in the areas where I'm not good. But then if people come and ask me, like, that's just like I had someone ask me the other day. They was like, "Yo, I know you got the Commerce Agency, which is the Commerce Agency is a branding marketing company. We help businesses get looks and eyes and blah 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 blah. We run social media pages and all the other type of stuff." So they reached out to me and they was like, "Yo, so I know you know how to do ads. Can you walk me through doing like social media ads or Facebook ads?" And I told them, "Yeah, I know how to do them. Guess what? I don't. But I have somebody on my team that specializes in that. But because they're on my team, guess what? I can say that I do
Exactly. Yeah.
because I've staffed myself to say. So when you call me, you get the team that comes with me. So I'm like, yeah, I can. Yeah, we can do that. They call me, boom, they on the phone with me. They like, all right, so what? What do I need? What do I need to start? I was like, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. I call my ass guy. Yo, get him on the phone. We all on three-way. Hey, T, what's up? Hey, so we talking about running ads. We want to know what's the first step. He gives point by point by point by point by point. We get off the call. It was somebody else, but it's because I staffed my deficiencies. The connection came through me. It's one of those ways of, and I think a lot of times, and it just comes across for us across the board, and anything that we are called to do, anything that we're called to impact, we won't have all the answers within ourselves. And I feel like that's also a plight for the Black man, is for us to always feel like we have to have all of the answers. And it keeps us isolated and it keeps us not wanting to partner with people. Everything that I do, I have partners. Everything. Because I know what I'm called to do and what I'm called to reach is so much bigger than just me. So it's gonna require teamwork. It's gonna require partnership. It's gonna require business partners and connections and things of that nature. Because I know that if that proverb that says literally, like, if you want if you want to go quick, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's just it's that concept, and I'm trying to go far, and I'm trying to create something. My grandfather told me something, man. Um, when I talk about jumping into ministry and things of that nature, my grandfather's no longer alive, but my grandfather told me something. My grandfather says, "Real ministry outlasts your breath,"
Mm.
and what I'm trying to create, it got to outlast me. If it dies with me, I didn't create much.
Yep. Yep.
So people ask me all the time, like, "Well, why did you adopt? Why did you?" Because I'm creating something that's going to outlast my breath. Like what the legacy and things that I have and the things that I build and the things that I'm going to achieve, especially within this year, requires people in place to hand that down to.
Yeah.
But I got to have the right people in place to work certain things and work certain aspects. But I know, man, I know what I'm called to do is way bigger than me.
Yeah. That's
So
that's
so
that's real.
it requires multiple hands to hold it and carry it through.
That's 100, man. Man, we appreciate you, man. As we kind of close out, what are some of the goals that you have for 2024?
Woo, boy, that's a good question. Uh, so man, every year I do a goal board. I call them goal boards. I tell people this all the time. Like, I don't have a problem with my vision. I have a problem with achieving goals. So I can dream all day long. So I create goal boards. And so part of my goal boards is, what does a year of success look like to me? One of those things, man, um, my whole theme of this year is, why not me? So every opportunity that comes, I don't want to second guess it. There were some opportunities that hit in 2023 that I talked myself out of by self-sabotage.
Mm.
I didn't take because of fear. I didn't take because I second guessed it or I thought about it too much or whatever the case is. But I'm like, yo, why not me? In this season of my life, why not me? I've continued to work. I've continued to put best foot forward. I've continued to persevere and try. Why not me? So a part of that is there are three major focuses that I'm focusing on this year. Number one is intentionality. Number two is consistency. And what's number three? Hold on, I got it on my phone. Cause dog, like, I don't be playing, bro. Like I'm
Yeah.
serious. Um, so it's hold on. Let me hold on. I mean, cause I'm do hold on.
It's vital to put it on paper and text it so it don't slip.
Facts.
You
Hey,
feel me? I
for
live by
sure.
my note.
Hey, let me tell you, I be putting in my notes on my phone, and then also I have a book that I write it down in. So like everything is there, right? So it's literally intentionality, consistency, which for me, consistency, what I'm trying to do, consistency, and that's financially, that's whatever I set in place, but also consistency with my health.
Yeah.
And, bro, you said this earlier, just us believing in us taking our physical health and all of that stuff. And so consistency, so intentionality, consistency, and discipline are my three major focuses for this year, man. Just in everything, and not allowing my emotions to talk me out of what my discipline and consistency should be pushing me into. So like, it'd be plenty of days where I'm like, oh, I got to record some content, but I don't feel like it today. No, you still got to do it. And so like I put up underneath my thing, like my brand is my job. So I got to treat it as such. I got to get up like I'm going to a job. I got to come in this room and record content like I'm at a job. I got to, show up and do graphics and do design work because it is my job. But the thing about entrepreneurship, everybody loves talking about entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur. But unless you are self-motivated, entrepreneurship gonna kick your tail.
Yep.
Cause ain't nobody gonna be on your back saying, hey, this is what you need to get up and do until you get them bills and that light bill saying, hey, it's gonna get cut off because you didn't do what you needed to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but those are my focuses, man, for this year and really take my health serious, take getting into condition serious, and then me showing up beyond what my emotions tell me I should do. My motto outside of why not me, one of the things that I'm telling myself every single day is that there's a space beyond my emotions called responsibility,
Mm.
and it's up to me to lean into their responsibility and show up no matter what I feel like.
That's powerful.
Yeah, so that's my focuses this year, man. Those are my three major focuses, and then it breaks down to accountability in those spaces. And so I'm gonna talk to you guys, because there is something that I'm doing for men that I'm gonna bring you guys a part of if y'all want to be a part, man. But it's just like accountability for men. I want to do a monthly accountability call. I started it. Then we had like 15 guys on the call. A lot of guys like, man, I missed it because I did it in the middle of the day. But I want to do accountability calls for men because, man, I just really believe like this year, there are men that are going through it, but feeling like they're by themselves. And just the accountability of emotions, the accountability of, yo, I don't feel like I'm qualified for this. I don't feel like I'm worthy of this. I don't feel like I'm smart enough. All of those, thoughts and emotions. So yeah, man, I'm just really leaning into all of those things this year.
Perfect, man. Lastly, as well, where can the people tap in with you? If they want to tap in with you.
Yeah, man, I'm Adrian Davis now on everything. Adrian Davis now on Instagram, Adrian Davis now on YouTube, Adrian Davis now just all, if they search that, I'm usually there, man. So on all platforms, Adrian Davis now.
And that's a wrap, man. Marcus, you got anything else for the people?
I told you he was gonna drop some gems. He dropped some commas, some gems, all the above. So, hey, I ain't had to talk too much today. I was appreciative, man. But sincerely, brother, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy as always, man. It's crazy just the power of connection and putting that pride and ego aside, man. Like we really rap a good 10, 15 minutes, hopped on the stage together, really built a relationship to build from. But again, was very intentional about putting him in front of y'all today. Because again, this brother is extremely wise and he's extremely vulnerable and transparent. And that was the biggest thing that I loved about it. So again, the biggest thing I really took from the conversation, man, is just be transparent. If not for you, for everybody else, right? For those who are going to be a part and be blessed with the seeds that you have sown that are going to outgrow you as well, too, man. That whole quote kind of about the MOK, man, like having the 80-year stress really hit home for me, bro. Cause my therapist told me I got the stress of a 50-year-old, and I ain't too far from Brad. So I'm like, that really hit home for me, man. And I'm actually about to give a speech on the MLK event. So I'm like, damn, you just gave me some ammo you don't even know, bro. But
yeah, man, I'm Marcus. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna see if I can find this link. It was so much information, bro. But the thing of it is that it showed me when I read it that as much as he was doing to push the equality agenda, and as much as he was doing this to push the nonviolence agenda, he internally was dealing with so much pressure, so much stress, and didn't have a space. And let me say not didn't, but because I don't know. But I don't know if he took advantage of the spaces that he had to be transparent and vulnerable. And a lot of times we can have those spaces, but we don't take full advantage. And that's what I'm realizing with us as Black men. Stuff will be created for us, but we don't take advantage of it because we ego, pride, I shouldn't have to need that, or now, what I look like telling somebody else what I'm going through, and so forth and so on. I don't want to be that vulnerable. Man, listen, you better get some help before it take you out.
Real talk. Real talk.
For real.
Nah, I feel it. Hey, he said everything I gotta say, James. Bad to you, brother.
All right. Peace out, y'all. Appreciate y'all, family.
All right, family. Y'all be blessed.
All right, James. All right, Mark.